All right, let's make another track. I'm in kind of a minor mood today. It's a bit rainy, so I'm gonna stick to one of the minor modes. Let's go with the Phrygian. Let's make a Phrygian track. So I have in my head an idea here that's kind of a Massive Attack sounding thing. If you're not familiar with the band Massive Attack, check them out. Um, so I threw in this really simple drum beat. It's just a hi hat and kind of a snare rim click thing. That's it. Nothing fancy. Okay, so I've got this bass here. And by the way, I'm trying to use all factory preset stuff in Ableton so that if you're using Ableton, you can download these patches that I'm going to post in the class, these whole sessions, these sets as Ableton calls it, and you can mess around with it. So if I use the presets, then it's all stuff that you have. So I'm going to try to use those for most of it. Okay, so I'm going to put in a bass line here. I have this idea for this very kind of Phrygian dark thing. So what I'm going to do is let's go with E Phrygian because it's easy to think about because it's all the white notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this. Just going to make eighth notes all the way across. Or am I making 16th notes? I think I'm making 16th notes. Yep. Let's get rid of every other because I just want eighth notes here. And then let's copy that, duplicate it, and duplicate it. Okay. Let's take that down an octave. Okay, let's stretch those out. Okay, that's good. I'm going to adjust the envelope on this a little bit. That's pretty good. All right, I'm okay with that. Now to get that Phrygian sound, remember Phrygian is a flat 2 in a minor mode. So I'm just gonna go. Cool, right? Now I'm using that flat 2 right there. That's so Phrygian. Awesome. All right, let's just keep that going. And let's see what else I've put in here. I don't know what we're gonna do with that. Let's arrange this a little bit. So let's pull this out. Oops, I didn't set that to loop. That's okay. Alright, let's loop that part. Okay, now let's go to the next part. I'm going to take all of that with me. And let's add something here. So let's copy this down. It's actually kind of interesting. Let's leave that for a sec. Oh, so here I put in strings. So here I want to build a nice big chord progression. So let's do triads first. And let's do a different triad here. Okay, so now I got to stop because this is going to take a little bit of thinking here. So I'm just gonna. So this is all one long chord, really. I wouldn't want to harmonize this F with a triad because it's really quick and in passing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a big E minor here. Now I could keep doing an E minor here, but what if we did something different? So what I want to think here is what's another chord that has an E in it? What if E was the third of the chord? That would be a C major chord, and that is in the key of E minor, and it works in E Phrygian. So we could use E, we could use C, we could also use A minor. Let's use C. I like it. Okay, so I'm going to go C, then I need a G. Okay, so I'm going to build a C major chord on the second one. So for the harmony here, I'm going to get rid of, I don't want it to pulse like that. Let's do that. Now, let's get even a little fancier with this. Let's take that, let's extend this out. I actually want this to be a 4-bar loop. Now let's take that, now let's turn it into an A minor. That'll put the E as the 5th. So that's going to be A, C, and E. That's going to be that. So A, C, and E. If we move this up an octave, we would see it as a triad right there. But let's leave that down there. And then maybe let's try to do something a little different for this last chord. What if we did an A, if we did a G, an E, well, no, we're back to an E minor here. Let's just do that. This is like a E, A, B, so this is a E minor with an A in it. What I really want to do is some kind of B-based thing, like a 5, because remember 5 goes back to 1. So if I do B and A, that kind of makes it feel like a 5/7 chord a little bit. So let's try that. That's kind of a made-up chord, but that's okay. And let's make this a little darker. I think, let's just hear this as is. Actually, let's just hear this and the bass line. Right, that is nice and dark. Let's move it up an octave. Wash it up and reverb. Put the volume down on it. I think that's actually pretty cool. Let's hear our whole song here now. So far, what we've got so far. Okay, you know what? I was going to stop there, but now I have another idea for something cool we could do with this. I'm going to duplicate this one more time. So I want to hear that twice without looping, and then I'm going to duplicate it one more time, and now I want to do something a little different. What I want to do here is I want to keep this chord progression, but watch this. Now I want to change the bass note. So what if I went to D here? So I'm going to change this bass note. This doesn't make a lot of music theory sense, but just trust me. Move that up to an E. So I'm losing that F, which gives me that Phrygian sound, but just for a minute, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to replace all of these. I think that's going to give it like a really dramatic kind of shift. It might be a little dissonant because of that D, but actually let's take all of these E's. There's this thing that happens, this is kind of a sidebar aside from Phrygian, but there's this thing that happens when you've got a chord progression going, you just drop it down by a half step or a whole step. It's a pretty cool sound, so check it out. You got to hear it really in context though, so let's start it from the beginning again. So the reason I just stopped it is because I wanted to go back to there instead of looping. So let's turn that loop off. So now it's back to there, and that's pretty much our whole kind of intro section. That's actually pretty cool, right? Like, so let me just walk through real quick again what I did right here. What I did is I took our bass line, and it was E going to F. I dropped the E down to D just to give it this whole step drop feeling. And then instead of it going up a half step right here, because that would take us out of key, I pushed it up another note so that it goes up a whole step right there so that we're still in key. And then I kept the chord progression totally the same. I didn't change the chord progression except for this bottom note that was an E all the way through. I moved that bottom note down to D, but the chords are the same. So now our chords are all screwed up now, right? Because we have this G, B, and a D. So that was an E minor. Now it's a G major. Here we have a G, C, and a D, which doesn't make a lot of sense as anything, but it sounds interesting. We could make sense of that as something, but best not to overthink things sometimes. We have an A, C, and a D, which doesn't make a lot of sense, and we have an A, a B, and a D, which doesn't make a lot of sense. In terms of triads, these three don't make much sense. We could, if we started calling one of those notes a seventh, they would all make sense, but let's not worry about that. Just think of this as I took a note and I dropped it down for an effect, and then I'm going to go back. It's temporary. We don't need to think about it too hard.